Most people dream of slowing down, escaping the noise, and getting back to something real. But very few people actually do it. Today's guest did more than just dream, they built it.
It is just about the disconnect of diaspora, basically, from farming and from agriculture, in which we taught them. They didn't teach us. Everything that we do in this country is built off of agriculture.
Still,
Every person must at least experience the idea of seeing how your food is processed and getting that, because you might consume it less.
From the bright lights of the music industry,
I wanted to work with the Fugees really bad. Who comes walking into the door? Wyclef. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. Like, this is crazy. Fast forward, I'm in the studio with the Fugees.
to the quiet rhythms of rural Georgia.
So we had to learn how to stop building houses in other people's spaces, and the farm is a direct reflection of that. It's like, now you can come here, safely create, stay, play, create.
Milk+Sizz have turned faith, love, and creativity into 10 acres of Black excellence known as DRFT Farm.
We started doing farm-to-table dinners where we bring chefs, some of the best chefs in the country.
Rhythm that doesn't feel forced, because the creativity doesn't need to be forced. It is a byproduct of good consumption. If you consume better, you will create better.
A space where art meets agriculture and legacy grows from the ground up.
A sordid history about agriculture in the United States really disconnects so many of us, brown people, from the idea of even getting involved in anything like this. But guess who's owning all the land? Everybody wanted us to have a 9-to-5. Like, that was the only way we was going to get a house, is that we go get a 9-to-5. We kept being put in a situation where now you're fighting against a machine because you built a house in somebody else's yard.
Welcome back to The Other Route, where we celebrate the dreamers and doers who are redefining what Black excellence looks like. I'm Mike Riley, and today I'm sitting down with Milk+Sizz Hornsby, the husband and wife duo behind DRFT Farm, to talk about how they went from the stage to the soil.
How we started about 18 years ago, dating originally. We didn't want to do any music. Let me clarify. I did not want to do any music with him. And 18 years, 2 kids and a farm later, here we are, just teaching other creatives how to be mindful. DRFT Farm is an acronym for Don't Run From Today. And we learned that throughout our industry experience being high-level creatives, that there's so much room for not just bad behavior, which we always see unfolding, but there's no space to really find peace in creation. It's always the struggle. Everybody's supposed to talk about the struggle, and it's like, but that's not healthy. And not only is it not healthy, it's not sustainable. We lose so many of our creatives, and that's what stemmed the creation of the farm. We lose so many creatives because of something health-related, something mental, emotional, something that's not, something that's driving them.
And it's not catered to.
And it is not catered to. It's medicated, or substances, to kind of like, but simple, mindful practices, consumption, that's what we do here at the farm.
That is pretty interesting. And that you actually cater to the creative community like that. I think that's excellent. But, I heard you say earlier that you didn't really plan on doing music. What was your background? I mean, what was it like growing up for Milk+Sizz? Did you both have a background in farming or in agriculture?
No, when we say music, we didn't have we were individually doing music when we met. And I didn't want us to do music together. So that's like our longest, I guess, I don't want to say a running joke.
So
but
we got to go back. That's why I said that's
a little layered. Yeah.
Layered. We lived several lives. So myself and Milk, we're both from New Jersey, and we both grew up in different parts of Jersey until we got to, I guess, the high school years, where we wound up finding out later in life that we grew up in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other. We never met each other until we were adults, but we grew up actually up the street from each other. So we had all the same friends, never crossed paths.
We had the same deli guy. Like, we literally were, you know what I mean? Like, we're right here in the same neighborhood and never crossed paths.
That feels so divine. I mean,
but that's what we always say. We share that as when God wants you to have something, he gives it to you and he orchestrates it all the way through from the inception of the idea all the way to the end result.
And the timing.
Yeah, and timing is impeccable when it comes to that. But because we liked each other, I didn't want music to be the thing that we did because everybody expected it.
Well,
and they wanted it.
Also, let me jump in there. I still also have to build out the fact that where does music even come into play? Like, I have to always remember that there are folks that don't know any aspect of the story, right? So you have to kind of start from the beginning there.
Yes.
How did music even come about, right? And it was different for each of our paths.
Yeah.
My brother was a music producer when I was, really, really young. And I got into music. I was about 6 or 7 years old. And I started, just being introduced to it from the hip hop side. Like, I was always rapping and stuff and just figuring out things. And so as a kid, I got introduced to the industry really, really early. To the point where I'm talking about like at a professional standpoint. Like, I performed on the same stages as like the Lost Boys, KRS-One, Big Pun. I was 12 years old in the record shop with the Roots in Philly. Like, so it was like I had this crazy unique perspective of like being in it, but also still being a kid. I was still like actually a kid. So I would just be writing, and I did all my own writing. And so I got exposed to, some label situations. My brother at the time he had a deal where he was like signed to Master P basically. And Master P had basically developed a No Limit East. And so he was going to do this whole big rollout with No Limit, but like an East Coast version of No Limit and all that. It wound up just being crazy. It was a lot happening. Either way, that whole deal and situation fell apart, but that was like my big exposure to like, okay, I'm really understanding the industry. And then I went away for school. I came down to Atlanta. So that was like
first round Atlanta. You both have first round Atlanta moments.
Yeah. And that wasn't my first time in Atlanta because my brother graduated from Morehouse College and he was a big Morehouse man. He even had me come down. I did like the stuff from the early programs in high school where you come down and you get introduced to the school when you do a summer. I did all the summer programs and all that stuff. So when it was time, I got accepted to Morehouse. I came down, went to Morehouse. I went to 2 schools because I was just trying to
finish first.
And so I was going in for pre-med. So I had a lot on my plate. And so I was doing Georgia Perimeter at the time, which is now Georgia State and Morehouse. Full-time, working full-time and doing all this stuff. And meanwhile, I still had this bug like, man, I want to do music, but I had no way to do music. I had nobody here. And so I downloaded this program, which everybody knows now. But at the time, nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. Program Fruity Loops. And and now it's now known as FL Studio, which is like everybody uses. Everybody uses. I was one of the first people. I was using it in beta. You couldn't even save anything at the time. So I'm using this program in beta. And I'm just trying to figure out how to make music for myself because I didn't have a producer. And I actually got really good at it really quick. And I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And then it went from I kind of like this to no, like, I love this. Like, I love this part of the process. Like, I think I love this more than even being on stage and like in front of everybody. But I still love being on stage and in front of everybody, but I really love this. So it got to the point where I was like, I am not passionate about this whole doctor thing right now. I need to make some decisions. And called my mom. I told her, look, I'm passionate about music. I want to do music in some way. I don't think I'm going to go forward with this. She said, well, and she surprised me because I was just like super scared to tell her that. And she said, well, baby, if that's not what you want to do, if you want to do music, I fully support you. But big butt. You come back to my house, you're a grown man now. So you're not coming back to like be who you were when you left. You coming back, you better have a job, you paying bills, you're going to invest into whatever that is that you want to do, and you got to get it right. And so I came back, and within 1 week, I got it. I had a job. My homeboy, Chris, at C. Wills, shout out to my man, C. Wills. He put me on to like one of those jobs where you just get a commission-based sales job, like electronics and cell phones and all that. And I went crazy, and I was making bank. Back then, cell phones, you could sell minutes and family plans and all of that stuff. Everything that's unlimited now, everything you sold then, you made out of money off of. A la carte. It was like you get commission off of everything. Oh, you want weekends? Commission. Oh, you want a family plan? Commission. I'm making like $3,000 a week, 19 years old, I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm investing into my own company. I started my company, incorporated it, did everything the right way, bought all of the equipment, and I'm just like, let's go. And so within that first year, I just really went hard. I just, as Ye would say, a whole 2 summers straight, I'm just in there just cooking. And so I wanted to work with the Fugees really bad. Like, just for, New Jersey, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Fugees, I have to, I don't know why my mind said that. That was like a super far-fetched for like a 19-year-old who didn't have any history in producing to be like, I want to work with the biggest group in the world right now. Like, I want to do that. Fast forward literally less than 2 years of coming back home to Jersey. Fast forward, I'm in the studio with the Fugees.
Get out there, really?
Doing a record on them.
Oh, that is insane. Wow. What a manifestation.
Oh, yeah. It was like full. I mean, I said it every day for like 2 years. And I was in the studio with them like 2 years within that time frame. And it all happened just because I kept opening my mouth. And every time I would open my mouth, I would do it at work. I met like Wyclef's like dental hygienist. And she's like, oh, yeah, I can like try to. And that didn't work out. I'll keep saying it. And then a friend from high school was like, oh, man, he's a Haitian kid. He's like, yo, I know them. And every Haitian says they know this John family. And so I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, no. Like,
come with me.
Yo, come with me on Saturday. I'm gonna take you somewhere. He takes me to Wyclef's mother's house. And he's introducing me to Wyclef's younger sister, who is still one of our very good friends. Mm-hmm. And the whole family. We still have a incredible relationship with the whole family still to this day. And this was easily 20 years ago. And so I go in, his sister's cooking, his baby sister is cooking. And she's like, oh, yeah. So we're around the same age. And so we're just like kicking it, vibing. And then her older sister comes in, who is half of the group Milk+Sizz from back in the day, who is Wyclef's brother and sister, who were also like pretty well off as well. And so they come in, and I'm like, oh, okay. And just so happens that day, who comes walking into the door? Wyclef. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. Like, this is crazy. So the sister says, oh, yeah, this guy right here, he says he can make beats. And they all laughed. They're like, okay, all right, cool. And so Clef looks at me, he says, are you really serious about this? I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what. We're going to all go upstairs. I got the system, everything upstairs, and we're going to play your music. But if it's whack, I'm throwing it out the window. Like, we were at the second level, and it was a huge window. I was on the second floor. He's like, if it's whack, I'm I'm going to frisbee it out the window into the pool. I'm like, all right, cool. So we go upstairs. They play the first track. Everybody's looking around like, yo, this kid is, all right, okay. Play the next track. His sister's like, yo, play another one. They play like 6 tracks, and they're like, yo, kid, you got it. Like, you're actually Dude, like, what the heck? So Clef is like, yo, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? You know?
What I'm doing whatever we're doing.
And he's like, yo, come up to this, come up to Platinum in New York. This is the address. Be there at this time. Ask for this person. And I see you there. I get there and literally, and this is all within that time of him saying, I'm going to take you. This is 24 hours. And I'm in the elevator, and the elevator opens up, and the first person I see is Lauryn Hill.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, yo, this is not real. This is when the Fugees were trying to make another album again after the score. They had broken up. L Boogie went on and did her thing. Clef went on and did his thing. Pras went on and did his thing. They all had, Pras had the Ghetto Superstar. And Clef had all of his hits, Going to November, everything. Lauryn, of course, had Miseducation. And it was just like, at this time, you're talking about 3 superstars. All right, we're about to come back together and do this album again. And I was like, pretty much in there. Like I was in there, I played the track and they started recording immediately.
That is so cool. That is, man, what an incredible journey. And just kind of like thinking, because I'm a hip hop head myself. We could probably go down that journey all day. So, I grew up out here on the West Coast though. So, I grew up the Death Row days and all that other kind of stuff. But
don't get me going.
Yeah. So that was my whole thing too. But just thinking of Jersey rappers who were like huge. I think the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is like Lauryn Hill and like Wyclef. But then I think of like Naughty by Queen Latifah, they were all from Jersey, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I had a chance to work with a lot of the greats at that point. I worked with Naughty by Nature, all of the heavy hitters.
So I started my journey in high school. So mine is it's different and similar because we both started out as artists but I was in a girl group. And it's funny because majority of my trajectory in music has always been writing at almost every girl group that has literally almost ever existed. You know what I mean? Like, especially when it came down to like that season and that time. So when like the 3LWs got signed and like all of that, there were so many girl groups that were coming out of Jersey. There was this group called Divine that went to my high school. Jersey was like girl group center. They were looking for the next girl group. We were still in high school. We formed a girl group, my friends and I, and we were being vocal coached by Faith Evans' vocal coach, right? So he was like, because again, Jersey is this crazy, like a lot of greats come out of Jersey, right? So we were just like doing it. And one day I was in studio, this is still in high school, and he's like, you should write. And so I took that as don't sing, write. But that's crazy because what's so interesting about that is that my pen has been the thing that has sustained our music and what we continue to do together collaborative for sustainability. So I always tell people sometimes the message that you're hearing may not be the message that you're thinking, but going to be in a girl group would just been a very limited and short-term journey versus the career that we've been able to amass has only come from the fact of these little tidbits. And it was like, for me, I was like, put a little chip on my shoulder. And I was just like, well, I'm gonna be the best writer ever. And that was how I got started. I got started just like when I got to undergrad. See, I went to school in DC. So me being in power, I started my publishing company. I did everything to show, like he said, like formulating your company. And he's doing the things to be like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm gonna be the absolute monster in the studio. Like I'm gonna be in every, like all the different things. And that's so why we say what we created out of what we learned from the industry was that there's so many better ways to create, but a lot of us don't have the necessary tools in order to do that. And therefore we don't get anywhere. So we're perishing at a faster rate, or when we perish, our business isn't together. Therefore, we're not able to support our legacy of all the great things that we did in the space because no one can, like our family isn't taken care of. You know what I mean? Like they had to have GoFundMe's to bury you. And you did some of the best records in the industry forever. Like we got records that people still sing. You know what I mean? And it's like that person is now gone and passed, but they can't be buried. And somebody else, some suit has to pay for their funeral. just as like a, man, I always loved them. Until, like somebody comes in to look like a superhero when it's like, well, if the business was right,
You wouldn't have to be
then you don't have to come and be a superhero, because there's nothing messing with the money, so that the person their family can receive the things that they're supposed to receive. So we've always been advocates in this space, because we've kept and protected ourselves since not just joining forces, because we've had some situations where when we were separate, we both had to, people said, I had to fight for my life. It's like, but in certain industry, in certain spaces, you are kind of fighting for your life. You're fighting for your survival. And so when we got out of those modes, what we wanted to set out to do is the only way you can change the game is from the inside. You can't sit on the sidelines, not successful, not doing the things, and to talk about how somebody did you wrong and dirty, because that's also the stories that you hear. Or you can change things and build something that allows people to see a better way. And the only way you could do that is by building something complete, not a lot of hands, not because we've built studios, we love everything sound. So we've created moments continuously where we kept being put in the situation where now you're fighting against a machine because you built a house in somebody else's yard. So we had to learn how to stop building houses in other people's spaces. And the farm is a direct reflection of that. Is like, now you can come here, safely create, stay, play, create.
Well, let's kind of segue. That's a perfect segue into this next question I have, because just hearing your story, y'all seem like you were very much in the music world, and they're very much in that creative space in the music world. What made you take that creative energy and plant it? And I do mean that and figuratively.
Having a career that spans, pretty much 20 years in an industry, and seeing the ups, the downs, and understanding the reality of it, not the fabricated, over the top. Ideology. Yeah. It's not just all fun and games, and it's not just a bunch of fancy cars and big checks and money everywhere. That's not reality. So to know that you have to still work for yourself, you still have to work for your family, you still have to put all of that into play, and then you have to deal with the politics behind the music industry, and you have to deal with everybody else's BS and the things that come along with it. You begin to understand that it's bigger than just chasing the next job. It's bigger than just chasing the next record. And so for us, we had to take time to stop, put a pause on things, allow for ourselves to get grounded and understand what's important and prioritize what's important, which the most important thing in anybody's life should be your health. It should be how you take care of yourself, because you can't do any of the other things if you're not here. You can't create anything if you're not well enough to do anything. So for us, we decided that was what needed to take priority. And so when we took a pause, which I would say we're just beginning to press the play button again.
Right.
But we paused for about 4 years, just doing any music at all, and focused all of our energy
Into the farm.
on the farm.
Yeah.
Wow. And was this something that you did? I mean, I understand, but like just on a personal level, did you want to learn how to do agriculture? I mean, beyond the idea of creating something for yourself, having this legacy and things like that, is it because you wanted to like learn how to, either plant your own food and farm and have an agricultural?
Originally it came out of devastation. So in 2020, when everything was really, really crazy for the world, we suffered other losses. The pandemic was raging, but at the onset of it, we lost a few siblings. We lost, just family in general during that period and leading up to that, right? So imagine, at the time, so 2017, we had our first child, right? Being married all this time, but being in an industry where we're just like, we didn't know if we were going to have children or not. And when God blessed us, we just said, fine, we're going to do it because obviously God wants us to have children. We're going to do it. That's the end of it, right? So we planned for our children. We did all these things, and life was started to life in a completely different way. You start to look at the moments that are happening around you, and you could either be driving or you could just be a passenger, right? And so what we learned is that for maybe a good portion of our careers, we were in the game, right? It's like we're like the student drivers, like, you know what I mean? Like you got still somebody over there messing with the stuff, and can stop the car at any time.
Driving, but you're not driving.
But you're not driving. So we went and we built some spaces. They did a whole article on us about a space that, you know, we had built. What are creatives doing during the pandemic? And we're like, oh, we're building spaces. People are used to us building studios and platforms and stuff like that. And we were just like, yeah, we're just, because his family comes from a construction background. So a lot of the stuff that you even see here, he's built with his own hands, right? So we did that in 2020. Literally after everything went digital, we did a conference, a national conference that we normally do as a mentorship. We did that virtually for the first time because everybody was going virtual. That night, a tornado came in and washed the whole thing away. So the whole place where we were living with our daughter, like a flood came in, and literally, if she was in her bed, she would not be here. She just happened to be in our bed. And and it's not even in a hurricane zone, not even in any of this thing, no flood zone whatsoever.
Is this in Georgia?
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't know.
And the place became uninhabitable. We weren't able to go back to the place anymore, and we were put in a hotel by by the insurance company, right? Who then later told us that they weren't going to cover anything because it was an act of God. So all the equipment that you lost, all the space that you built, everything that you did, don't worry about that. You guys, you got to go ahead and take that L and just, you know, and move on with your life. But we were in the middle of scoring a movie, right? So we're in the middle of scoring this movie, doing all these cues, pretty much doing kind of a combination between music supervision and creation. And we still had to work, right? Because really, even though the world was kind of shutting down, most places were not fully shutting down. Or if you went, you know, to a non-public facing space, then they still expected all the deadlines to be hit and met, and not, they didn't really expect you. You didn't have to show up for nothing. You still essential. You know what I mean? They were like, oh, well, the project is still going. We still have this going. They might not be shooting, but now we're in post anyway. So you can just do the work from home anyway. You're good. Now you have no home. So what are you going to do? We're inside of a hotel that just like yes, it has a kitchen. Yes, it has like, you know, a living room. It's just 2 bedrooms, but it's still a hotel, and it did not feel great, and the world still didn't feel safe because you're in the middle of COVID. So the farm was born out of our need for not just for us. Stay, play, create is such a bigger model because we believe that you should be able to thrive as a family and create, have a good life without feeling like, well, damn, I might die. You know what I mean? And every studio felt like that. So even if you could go into the studios in Atlanta, you couldn't. You were just like, I couldn't bring my child. My 2-year-old can't go with me.
But also to answer the question, why farming? Like, where did farming come from? So we went in that process, I'll pick up where she left off.
Good. I love that.
We went to Kenya, which Milk is half Kenyan. Her family is in Kenya. So we went and we spent over a month in Kenya.
I didn't want to come back.
That I hear every single time somebody goes there or somewhere else, they always say that.
But my family has a lot of farms there. My dad was born on a farm. You know,
so farming is a part of her family background.
DNA, but not something that I
not saying she was.
Yeah.
So we were there and we were at farms every day.
Either every day or on the weekends if we were leaving Nairobi to go into the farms.
Did you spend a lot of time on farms in Kenya as a child or growing up?
We were there every year growing up, and yes, we did go to the farms because you have to see my grandmother, you have to see, you know what I mean? Like you would have to see the family, and some families still occupying that same space that my grandfather and grandmother had built. So yes, but when you think about the time, we're talking about a month out of a 12-month year, right? Like, so that's not a ton of time. You're not, and I wasn't out there, you know, I always tell the joke on my show, going out there and saying, oh, if we're going to have chicken, and she just went outside and like wrung the chicken's neck in front of me and just went and cooked it. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But my dad has always been like very adventurous about food, which also connects to what we do here, if that makes any sense. My dad would be like, oh, well, you know what you're eating right now? Oh, that's Bambi. And like mortifying the space. I'm saying, you know, the big Kenyan man, he's just like, look, you need to understand the realities of food and how food is, you know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting there thinking like this, like every time Disney makes a movie about an animal, my dad would be like, that rabbit was really good. That's Thumper right there. That's crazy, right? And I would be like, that's terrible, but I get it now, right? It desensitized the idea that something that you see can also be consumed. It could be cute and funny and furry, but it could also be food, and that's okay. So we have the background as far as like his mom also grew up on a farm, and did things like pick strawberries and other stuff like that during when she was much younger. So this is something that's still like my family's only still active in the agricultural space in Kenya, but it was something that was really enmeshed in our DNA. And we were really science kids. Like we love math and science like so much. We think everything is, you know, everything, music, agriculture, all of this stuff is just math and science. And so when you get the formulas right, everything sounds like music. Everything sounds good. Not like this all rhythm.
Yeah.
You know, seasons are rhythm.
You can kind of see the matrix at that point a little.
You can. And now you're just now you're just moving, you know, from one seed to the next, planting different things and saying like, oh, well, this grows better in this type of soil, or this go, you know what I mean? Like but what that does for us is it just makes it extremely approachable and teachable. Like if you take nothing away from this conversation, everything we do here is with the blueprint to allow for others to be invited into the space to teach themselves how to consume better.
You know, I still have yet to get a farm from table chicken. And man, I gotta tell you, that is a goal of mine. Because I'm just curious of how good.
Well, I guess you'll be coming to visit.
That's one of the reasons why I commend farmers who are able to do stuff like that. You mentioned your father called the deer Bambi. I think we changed the names of things like that to like venison or poultry, just so it doesn't sound so harsh. But like that's one thing about meat, man. I love to eat it, but I don't think I could ever like slaughter it and kill it myself. But whatever. Shout out to everybody who.
But see, that's also a thing too. Like the first and the only time I ever had to slaughter slaughter a goat, it was just like I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna ever eat meat again.
Yeah.
But on my side of the family, it's very traditional.
Sure.
Like that's how it's done.
Did you do that in Africa? Were you slaughter?
We did do it when we were getting married. Yeah.
Oh, you get married?
It was a part of their right. It's part of the right.
That I had to go through because, hey, look, if you're gonna be the man of the house, you got to go out and you got to slaughter the meat.
Oh my!
And bring it back, and y'all got to cook it, and so it was kind of like, hey, are you ready to be the man of a household of a Kenyan household? And I'm like,
what a way to step up.
Yeah, man. So, but you know what? It made me appreciate it so much more.
Absolutely.
It did the opposite for me. I thought it was gonna be like I could never eat meat again, and then it was like, no, it was like, wow, I appreciate the sacrifice, that these animals make for us to be able to sustain and be able to move forward. But it also made me hyper focused on the practices and the processes of how my food is being treated and how I'm consuming, because not everybody's doing it this way. And so if they aren't, and they're putting crazy poisonous energy into the food, then that's what's getting into me. So I can't just consume anything.
Yeah, that's where the mindful consumption comes from with everything we talk about here at the farm, is simply connecting people back to the nature of it, right? It's like right now, you're like, I have yet to have a completely farm to table chicken. However, you're not like an individual on that. There's so many people who have no idea about the process. Therefore, they don't respect agriculture, even just as human beings. And like he always talks about the shared sordid history about agriculture in the United States really disconnects so many of us, brown people, from the idea of even getting involved in anything like this. But guess who's owning all the land? They are owning the land. They own the process. They know it. Like he said, whether they do it right or whether they do it wrong, they still understand the process. You don't even know how that chicken got from you to the store. And that to us is such an important journey and lesson for every single person. Like every person must at least experience the idea of seeing how your food is processed and getting that, because you might consume it less.
So is that where the name "Don't Run From Today" comes from?
Yes.
That where that whole kind of concept comes from?
Yeah.
So being present, as she alluded to, like I wrote a piece called the Tale of Two Disconnects. And it was just a piece that was on my heart, and I wrote it out, and then I shared it with her. She's like, "Yo, you got to share this with everybody." Like,
That we haven't really like published it like officially, but it's definitely powerful.
and it's just about the disconnect of the diaspora, basically, from farming and from agriculture, in which we taught. Like, we taught them, they didn't teach us. So people have this misunderstanding of like, yeah, we were just, they just had our great grandparents and great great grandparents as slaves, and they just told them what to do. No, 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 no. Yes, they were slaves, absolutely. However, they came with the knowledge prepackaged. That's why this country even turned into what it is now. It was built off of agriculture. Everything that we do in this country is built off of agriculture.
Still.
Even time and the way that time is constructed is built off of agriculture. Everything, seasons, what is pushed, your holidays, why you spend, why you do, it's all based off of agriculture. Why is Halloween based around pumpkins? Because that's when it's pumpkin season. What?
Now we have
everything.
Spice lattes. Now we have all these things. Right, because consumerism, the excess of consumerism is what drives agriculture. And so even our spaces, because we're more on the ag work tourism side, right? Which is, it's different because we're not producing for big ag. We're not producing for like main stores and things like that, which is very intentional. Because if they have 300 acres and for us we have 10, there's no way I can keep up with the supply to demand. My peas could be better, my cucumbers could be better, everything could be better, but I'm still not able to produce enough turn. And we saw that even in the Kenyan side. Like our family that sells coffee, there'll be a big box, there'll be basically like a mill who's actually making, more profit and selling you back the coffee that you grew because they have the machines to grind it. What? So for us, everything here is about creating sustainable models. Our larger, bigger vision is for everything to be here and be a one-stop shop, just like how it is for us in music. When you come to us, your project is literally complete. And so when you come here to the farm, the idea is exactly the same.
And that's what brings us to like our programming and like why we do the programming we do. We started doing farm to table dinners where we bring chefs, some of the best chefs in the country. We have them come out. And they do what they do. They're creatives as well. So they're just creatives in the culinary world. So they do their culinary art, and we have other creatives come and partake in that art, and it makes it easy, once again, accessible. Why would I want to come out to a farm just to come out to a farm? Well, no, if I come out to a farm because I know I'm about to get a bomb ass dinner, and I got one of the chefs that I probably been watching on Food Network cooking. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to be there. Well, now when you get here, guess what? Now you're going to learn something.
Could you walk us through the process? Like, what's the process? What was the whole process of buying your own farm and setting it up from the ground up? What was that journey like behind the scenes? Obviously, there's a lot of logistics involved, clearly. But, buying 10 acres, obviously, that's something that's easier to do in some places than others. But what was that process like? Was that like a very strenuous process?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Right, because originally, and that's another thing, let's just go back to sustainability and that word again. The idea that you can do something on a continuous basis, just at a fundamental level, right? Like people throw the word around a lot, but they don't really connect it back to how it is practical for everyday people, right? We were in music all this time, had tried many times to purchase and own property of our own without starting a family, just like we deserve to get a house. These banks and these other things, they didn't consider what we were doing real. They don't respect. They're like, listen, I can't how do you plan to turn a Grammy or a Latin Grammy into money? Like, I don't understand that. Like, I get it, you're at your highest level, but like, are you gonna be able to keep doing that? Like, that doesn't seem like, go serious. These are conversations we're high risk because you think that at some point we're gonna stop. That just shows you how they think about you in general, right? They don't think of you as a sustainable, something to invest in. You're risky.
And and even up to like the highest in wealth, let's just say in industries, they still are treated in a way. You have people like Shaq that had to correct somebody on when he wanted to buy his mom a house because he's like, check my credit. Are you kidding me? I'm about to buy this cash. Get out of my face. What are you talking about? And not to say that that was the space that we were in, but at the end of the day, for us, it was about people understanding and respecting that we had our business together. And so we had to figure out how to make that make sense in paper. And that was the biggest lesson that was learned by us, is that, yeah, we thought we were doing business at a high level. We were doing business. We weren't handling business in the right way. Meaning, you can do business. You can be transactional. You can sign deals. You can do contracts. Have a lawyer.
Yeah.
You can get money. You can pay taxes. But do you know what a P&L statement is?
And they're going to ask you for that. So they want to see, like, how long have you been doing business? This is a different conversation than just a one sheet that you sit there with your bio and your accolades, and like somebody, in publishing world is saying, like, this is how much measure of success we want to give you this gel. So because we've never signed one of those publishing deals, because they're always a loan to us. And so understanding business in so many different facets really helped prepare us for the farm, because we walked away from so many properties, like, because of the fact that at the time, we had to be prepared. And in the way that we were prepared, either we weren't prepared the way that they thought we should. Like, I remember when everybody wanted us to have a 9-to-5. Like, that was the only way we was going to get a house, is that we go get a 9-to-5. And if I get a 9-to-5, which again, there's no knock on sustainability. That's how you get to sustain your family. Do what you have to do. And it wasn't about going to get a job, but you correlated 9-to-5 with stability. And everything else that we were doing, which was showing stability, not stable.
Right.
That's what we're saying. Is what they're saying is, this is stable, this is not stable. And that is what made some of these processes so hard. So the farm wasn't hard to get, because we started to when we got shaped up, like we had like one of the best, call it like the guru loan officer person who was helping us with the deal, because she was just like, this is what I need. This is how it gets done. This is how you know what I mean? Because if not, they just will close the book on your chapter, and these houses will just walk off the market. We just happen to outbid everybody. Like, this was under fire. This property, everybody thought it was going to go to somebody else. Yeah. And we just happened to bid higher than everybody else to get it.
Well, let's talk about the farm more specifically. So what do you actually grow on your farm? And what kind of experiences do visitors get when they come and visit your farm?
So we grow a lot of, I would say a plethora of herbs, vegetables, fruits. We had just purchased our first couple of goats. And so we're just entering into that, and people would wonder, they always came, do you guys do meat? You have to understand that everything that you do in farming is ecosystem building. So you have to understand that it has to have a certain ecosystem in order for it to exist. And so now we grow, all the vegetables, and it is for whatever season. And so
let me ask you this. With all this farming going on, well, this is going to be kind of a two-part question. A, what was kind of the learning curve or how you do all this? And B, how has this farming changed your personal life? I mean, with all this farming going on, with tilling to the land and growing peaches and pears and things like that, y'all got time to do music anymore? Your parents?
That's a beautiful question. We're just now getting back into the space. So the last launch that we did happened to be with the children's music space, and where we got nominated for a children's Grammy for that space. But that was 2021 when that kind of like did its thing. And so now we're in 2025. So we've never stopped. We're still getting placements in the television and film space. That's kind of what we always like landed on after a while. So after some of our huge upswings, we usually always fill in the gaps with like television and film,
and let the music kind of do
its work.
We don't have to create new music to do that. It could just get pitched,
in catalog and stuff like that. So we're never out of the space musically, but as far as like new creations, we have a lot of new projects that we've been working on that we've been feeling because now the studio is ready again, right? So that was another thing. That was one of the last pieces because that's the last component of stay, play, create. You must be able to create in the space. And because music is our art form, we had to have like, this is our micro lab, which you're inside of right now. And so it has some of the best big studio sound and a super tiny, super
tiny, but it's very powerful. Man, I would let's turn the screen.
I know. Yeah, I mean, you can. You want to see? I like.
Yeah, that is so cool. That is so cool. Yo, so you built that, sis?
Yes.
Man, man, that is admirable. Very admirable. Yeah, that's man. I bet the sound that comes out of there is
Oh man,
it's pretty incredible. So we have some projects that we've been working on that, you know, because we like well, if you know, another random thing about us is we really work well quietly. So like a lot of people don't know all the different aspects about what we work on, and that's very intentional. That's how we get that personal. To answer your personal question, is that we take a lot of time cultivating because we believe in authentic creation. We don't just say like, oh man, this person's working, we got to just throw spaghetti at their wall and see if it sticks. It's like, no, we want to know who you are fundamentally. So we're doing a lot more retreats where we have invited artists in to create alongside us, which is really the magic of what we've always done throughout the industry. And as a side effect of those retreats, they come out with products that are a lot more intentional. And they leave better than they came, right? Because they're not used to a lot of the creatives, because we're talking about both young and older creatives have not been exposed to this type of learning environment, right? It's like or creating environment. They're just like, wait, I get to just like, yeah, go walk around, you know,
but we're getting some stuff.
Go pick some stuff. The retreats have such like a cadence of rhythm that doesn't feel forced because the creativity doesn't need to be forced. It is a byproduct of good consumption. If you consume better, you will create better. So we're trying to help you to relax enough to let the energy do its thing, right? So the space does most of the heavy lifting. As soon as people come, it's like you're starting to relax into a space of calm.
And now I kind of want to kind of shift over into just what it's like to be Black farmers in Georgia. You know, and historically, as I understand it, Black farmers have faced a lot of challenges, like land losses, limited access to resources, and things like that. What does it mean to kind of reclaim that narrative, to be Black farmers in Georgia, and to have a Black-owned farmer in Georgia? And how is the Black community in Georgia responding to the Drift Farm?
Well, the good news is that we are not alone. There are a lot of Black farmers that are in the space, and a lot do, you know, a lot more, right? We have carved out a special place, and we are very supported by our community because of that tie to creativity, right? And we're not really about farm tours, we're about farm experiences. It's easy to go to a farm and walk around and pick apples and pumpkins and like all the things.
Get about somebody's track.
Right. And then I was a part of to talk about the connection. I was a part of an incubator that Maryland Eastern Shore had did right before once we got the farm. We just go back to school. I'm a student of life, right? So we don't stop learning because you can't. I'm a better communicator of this information once you have firsthand knowledge of it. If you don't have firsthand knowledge of it, you're just, you know, talking the talk. And I don't do that. So I want to make sure that people understand, like, fundamentally why this is important. And hearing the story from all these other farmers around the country, not just in Georgia, was the fact that big box, or that's what I call big ag, is like they had their processes, their systems. And being in agriculture is not just it's not cheap. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very expensive. I always tell people, why don't you Google how much it costs to buy a tractor and then tell me why I'm selling $3 apples, right? Like, but that's another thing is everybody there, the things they were trying to teach these farmers was how to like have a food stand or a fruit stand or sell produce, like farmers markets. Like it was such, and just based on how we had such. Huh?
You guys don't do anything like that? You don't?
No. I wanted to jump in there, and that's where, for the sustainable aspect of it, and
of Black farmers,
the revolutionizing farming in a sense, is why would we worry about selling things by the dollar when we can be
Or the pound.
by the pound or the dollar, when we could be moving the narrative towards experiences and teaching, which people pay for
A class.
education.
Right.
And they pay for, look at the education system in this country. How much money does it make? A lot. So people will pay to be educated and people will pay for experiences. What they won't do is go out of their way. And this is just being logical. They won't go out of their way when there's a million other farms, there's a million other grocery stores, there's a million places where they can go.
Between here and
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because who's to say that yours is better than somebody else's if they've never had it, right? But they have to be willing to come and check it, right? So what I'm saying is you have so much competition for them to come. And if you're just selling produce, yeah, you're really going to have a hard time. You're going to have a very hard time. And not only are you going to have a hard time because of the competition, but you're going to have a hard time because you have to keep up with that demand and you have to sell enough. Fundamentally, let's go back down to the basics. Okay, you have a $2,000 mortgage, right? You have a, let's just say, I'm just throwing out just random numbers, right?
You leased
all of your
you leased all of your equipment.
Wait a minute. So now you got, let's say another,
With
being generous,
very generous.
you have another $4,000 in bills to cover just for your leases. And then you have all of your bills, your actual bills of just day-to-day bills. So now let's say you are clogged up to about $10,000 a month that you have to cover. You think I'm going to cover that off?
What all you got? Right.
There's no way. It's not sustainable and it doesn't make sense. Right.
That's why most of us run away from the idea of it. And those who have been doing it longer, they understand, like the white farms, they can have a farm stand. They're enmeshed in their community. They're doing all the things.
Not only that, they're being funded by the government.
Right.
Are you not?
No. Self-funded. Everything we do is self-funded.
The government gives subsidies to farmers, don't they?
Right.
Go. So now we're
back to the incubator.
Where does the disparity?
Back to the disparity and back to the incubator I was a part of. Listening to the subsidies that the farms are getting and the farmers, and the farmers are getting are generally tied to them either doing a specific crop, them being a certain person, them knowing a certain person, them being connected to a certain farm. It's a lot of interwovenness because now the good old boy club is a different club. And see, we come from the music stage. We know what the good old boy clubs look like. We know all of the good old boys that they look like. So it don't matter if it's an agricultural hat or a music hat. We just be like, oh, I know what I'm dealing with. I know exactly what this is.
Oh, it's a gang. Got it. Okay. I'm just not
in your game.
Well, I mean, what would you say to other young Black couples out there that are interested in getting into farming? Those roadblocks seem,
So they're not definitively a stop sign. I'm not going to say that.
We actually don't even like the fact of the stop sign. The goal for the farm is to create other models. This is a model. What we built here is a model that can be replicated, right? It's just like if the person who created Chick-fil-A, the person who created McDonald's, they created this. Drift is meant to be a turnkey model that can be an offshoot from any major city, in any metropolitan city in the country and globally, right?
It's duplicatable and it's scalable.
Another thing is a lot of people own land through their family. And what we talk to about a lot is land ownership, because I think that we're missing some of the conversations fundamentally. How this connects back to our community is literally the fact that if you own land, you actually have a more fighting chance on life itself, right? Like as the world turns and does things, you want to have a little slice of something, and knowing what to do with that something is critical, because somebody else will come around and tell you what to do with that something if you do nothing. So you've never laid eyes on that piece of property that your family owned in Mississippi or something like that. That's how the land is getting taken. You didn't find it as a priority. So creating models that allow people to make farming and agriculture accessible and easy to incorporate into their daily lives is the best starting point that we believe. Because if you don't understand it and somebody says, hey, so such and such died and now you own blah, 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 blah. You're like, how much can I get for it? Now you've then sold away a piece of your legacy that somebody else worked for that you didn't even have to do anything because you didn't know what to do with it.
I kind of want to segue into your faith and how this kind of guided your journey. And I was reading about your story, and I love how faith guides your story about how y'all unintentionally met. What was it, like a missed flight? I think I was reading about.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty divine to me.
Even the farm, that was just I just heard farm, and I literally told my realtor, who looked at us like we were crazy, but he's a beast, so he did it anyway. And he said, okay, I found a farm. And I was like, okay, he found like 4. And I took too long, like maybe 72 hours. And I was like, okay, I want to you this one, and this one. He said, those are all under contract. They're off the market. So when this came on, I said, I want to see it. He's like, well, I'm not going to be able to take you. I don't care. We'll come. And it was a whole open house. And we found the farm through this space. We did, like I said, we just happened to put the bid in at like 11 o'clock at night, right before the deadline. The next morning at 8 a.m., we had won.
Man,
so we literally have always connected back to faith, because whatever God tells us to do, we just tell people we're not this bright. We just are good stewards of God's information.
You gotta teach me how to do that, because, like, you pray or you can talk and speak things into existence like that. That's a pretty cool trick.
That's how we got wine. That's how we got, like, everything happened because somebody said, you know what we need? We need some wine. And then it was so. Like, everything is manifestation. You cannot discount that, no matter what you believe in. You have to know that the faith connection is how things get done. The universe conspires. God will put things in your path in order to ignite an idea, to show you that, look, you know what? I know you wasn't even thinking about this. Let me move this. This is it feels like whispers and feathers, and it feels so magical and mystical to some people. But for us, it's like, I'm just a good steward of what I heard. I know what I heard. When you stop ignoring what you're hearing, you start moving in faith and saying, I don't know how this is going to happen, but you already said it's going to happen, and I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to do exactly what you said. You said left, right here. No problem. It's left, right here then. It's not like you think it's a left at 90 degrees, like a full, like a hard, or do you can we go like on a slight angle? Just turn left. Yeah.
So your daughter McKenya, she gets to grow up surrounded by like animals and music and all this other cool stuff on this land. What do you hope she gets to take away from this experience, watching her parents build something like this?
And so McKenna is a very, very special young lady.
Uh-huh.
Like, she is extremely, and I mean special.
And I know all parents say that, but it's different.
No, she's a very different human being. Her emotional intelligence is bar none. Her presence and understanding of space
and interaction
and empathy and love and just understanding people. She is completely dialed in. But then you layer that with still being able to be a child, right? Still being able to be young and youthful and not tainted by the things that are surrounding them. That she's not tainted by that. Most people that come in contact with her are so blown away because they feel like they're talking to somebody that was born before a certain period of time, because she enjoys outdoors. She is a Renaissance young lady. She is extremely intelligent.
Right.
She's in the 4th grade, advanced, and she's 7, and she's about to be 8. She'll be in middle school by the time she's 9 years old. So she's just like extremely bright, but outside of just her brightness, she's literally bright. Her spirit is so bright.
And McKenna is a Kikuyu word for the happy one, the one who, like, the light bringer, so Kenna, in the word Kenna means happy, right? So it's like the happy one, right? And she definitely she brings that out in everything she does. And she's also very talented. So she likes, we kind of stay away from labels here at the house in general, because it's really mostly about not putting yourself in boxes. So we have a lot of like communication and ideas around what broken boxes and like not letting people put you in boxes and things like that. So we let her, like when she started reading at 3, we were surprised, but I ended up trying to put her in school and no school would take her because they said that she was too young. And I'm like, she's potty trained, she's reading. Can your kindergartens do that? And they were like, well, no. And I was like, okay. And they were like, well, if you have a degree, you can homeschool. So I started homeschooling because the need. So literally everything we always do is out of need and then action. Must take action. Don't have need and no action. Two things must make sense, right? So she still needed to keep going further. She needed to read more. She needs to she blows away all the time her readathons and stuff like that, and like she's always reading. And I just love cultivating that for her. Now she's in virtual learning. So that tank that we're talking about is now she's in more of a charter school, but they built the curriculum. I don't have to anymore. But with my son, I'm going to do the same thing. He's now tied into the farm and he'll be doing that. And the goals are really for him. Every year they have an educational theme that matches to their birthday. So they learn something throughout that year tied to this special theme. So his is veterinarian. He that's who he is right now. And I tie in great Black creatives who are in those spaces to let them learn about legacy.
Right.
They even did it. Yeah. So Frederick Douglass Patterson, named after Frederick Douglass originally, but his whole thing with United Negro College Fund being one of the co-founders, stuff like that, really kind of overshadowed the fact that he was the first Black veterinarian. And I was so impressed by that. And I went looking for books because that's, they always build a library. So they learn through reading. So they have to learn about these people. And I was like, there are no children books about him being the first Black veterinarian. And there's always books about the first this, the first that, everything. To the point where with McKenna, I had the opposite journey where I had to show her there is more than one of us who can be anything. But with my son, it was like, no, I had to show you that this Black man is the first veterinarian. And because of his success in other places, nobody talked about the fact that he was the first Black veterinarian, went to school to be a doctor in Iowa. Like nobody's talking about this, like at all. There's no literature about it. The story exists, but so I started I wrote him a children's book for that space. But then like for my daughter, we got the call from NASA because she was highlighting through one of our other really, really good friends, a photographer. She has this beautiful picture of her as Stephanie Wilson. Right. And
so
NASA reached out because they're like, wow, everybody always talks about Mae Jemison. Nobody talks about, and then when they talk about Mae Jemison, no one ever thinks about the other stuff that she does. So for me, with McKenna, I have more of a more than. It's more than just one, right? But then not finding on my son, it's like, you got to at least know the roots of like the first person. Like there's no story being told about the first. So it's like, it's a cool little, parenting journey, also an educational journey, because I don't like the singular, only let one of them in at a time type of thing. I hate that real deep. But I also don't like when stories aren't told. So we consider ourselves storytellers, story keepers. This year she'll learn about, so next week starting, she'll learn about being a key holder and entrepreneur. So that'll help to show her that, people like Madam C.J. Walker and other people who are like Black female key holders through their family created legacy. And so she can see that. And she's also doing that in real time here at the farm.
Man, imagine having parents like y'all, where you grow up and, getting all of this knowledge, and I'm sure your kids are McKenna and Kazaz, is that how you say his name? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they are extremely bright. Growing up in a time where these types of skills are becoming lost arts amongst children, learning agriculture, learning music on that type of level, especially with everything being so automated, so AI driven and things like that. I'm sure they're going to be years ahead of others, and they'll be able to teach others with what they learn. That is pretty cool.
But that's funny you say that, is because that's the curriculum that I started with. That's the curriculum that originally the curriculum is called McKenna that I built for her. But it has that. It's music, and it's music through coding. So it does bring in the technology aspect because we work with Georgia Tech. and we created music for their ear sketch program. And so because of that, she had been coding since she was like 3, but making music. Because again, what I say about fun, it has to be fun or nobody want to do it. Nobody will do it if it's not fun. So she learned how to make her own music through that open source program. Anybody can use it. And it just happens that we've created music for it. So we're a part of the space. And, we just love that relationship with Georgia Tech. But the whole curriculum is connected and created to help bringing people back into spaces. For her, art is a part of that. The zoo was a part of that. Now we have the farm, so we didn't necessarily need the zoo membership anymore. Because we're also wanting to show not animals in cages, right? You want to show them more free range, kind of like living.
So let me ask you this. So you've hosted incredible chefs, musicians, artists, all kinds of things there. How do you see Drift evolving over the next few years? What's next for Drift? Any dreams on the horizon?
Oh man, so many. So many. So Drift is at, what do I call it? 0.5.
Yeah, we call it 0.5.
This is like 0.5.
We're not even at 0.1. Oh yeah, we're not even at 1 yet.
Out of 100?
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So okay, at percentage,
Yeah.
right? So we're at 0.5% of where we want to be in this iteration. You know what I mean?
So much more. Everything that we do right now is super intentional to showcase the growth, but it also showcases proof of concept. And so, yeah, we built the micro lab so that you can see that a state-of-the-art facility is going to be here on a much larger scale. And then we'll build that. But then that'll still be housed within this structure. But then it'll grow to the point where it is a full-blown building. And it'll have its own, space where people can come in and score movies, and they can have editing suites. And, and so that's how it continues to grow. Everything that we do will grow that way. Yes.
Outdoor kitchen.
And
I'm a swimmer, so it has to have an Olympic size swim pool because you got to be able to do your labs to be able to train here. So I mean,
it'll be a compound. It'll truly be like a neighborhood after a while.
Walkable city situation.
Where you'll have multiple dwellings where some tiny homes and things will be on the land, and people can come and stay for a couple weeks, and they can rent out the spaces, and they'll be able to create while they're here. You can have movie studios pull up, and they can bring their whole cast and staff out here and literally be here, shoot here, edit here, work, and still be able to have dinners. And, instead of bringing catering on from wherever they get their sources from, they can have someone here doing farm to table meals for the whole cast. Things like that, where we're able to grow it out to a space that's just beyond what people are even thinking about these days.
Absolutely. That sounds pretty cool. That sounds like you guys have a pretty bright future. I would love to come visit one day. You're welcome. I would love to. I got to try some of that from farm to table food. Do you ever see yourself getting, I know you're against the big ag and all that other stuff, but do you ever see yourself getting into the commercial space? Like, will we ever see like Drift Farms in the frozen food section?
No, I don't think so.
What you probably see is Drift Farm in other cities. That's what you'll see. You'll see a Drift Farm somewhere else in another city. And like small, what we do like offsites, where you'll see like offsite experiences and things like that. That'll be probably, we've done 1 or 2 so far of those smaller experiences in other people's restaurants and stuff like that. But as far as
that's how we scale.
Yeah, we're scaling through multiple locations.
Yeah, through the existence of this somewhere else, so that it can become accessible. Sure.
There's one over here. There's one.
Instead of us being, an hour out from the city of Atlanta, we may be an hour out from the city of Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? And just 1 hour out somewhere where it's like, oh, that's crazy. So now I don't have to go to North Cal, to get to the vineyards and do all of that. I could be somewhere, Southern California, and be like, oh, dang, I'm out here at this farm. Not only do they have food, and they got their own wine, and
they're growing things that are specific to the area, because every area does something different. So a lot of times we don't take that information, We just like, yo, I'm gonna put a Chick-fil-A right here. It's gonna be the same recipe. It's gonna be the same Chick-fil-A that you had over here. And it should be, right? That's what most turnkey models are. But for us with agriculture, it's learning the land and learning the people around that space. And all you're doing is making sure that it's of the standard, right? It's now of the standard of what we're doing here. That standard and that drift sign, you can see that all over the country. And that makes you feel closer and connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that sounds like that sounds like some great plans for the future. I cannot wait to see y'all expand. Here's one last question I have for you finally. If you can give any advice to anyone watching and who's ready to take the other route, what would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Start.
That's right. You said earlier, right? Taking action.
Action. It's nothing is scarier than the first step.
Amen.
Right? Except for the second step. So you really need to just start. If you start, then every step becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. But you'd be like, the first one, you just like, well, I'm just, if we didn't act on any of the things we've ever acted on in our lives, we would not be where we are. And so I always encourage people to start. Just start. You can write the plans. You can listen to the nudges. You can do all the things. But if you fail to start, you will never get anywhere. The car does not move when it's stationary. You have got to get in and put some you did everything. You checked all the systems, you did everything, and then you put the key in and you just left it in park.
Yeah. And I would have to add to that, when God gives you nudges and when you're given a vision, don't think that just because he gave you the vision that he's going to actually make you do what it is. You have free will. And so he gives you that free will for you to make the decision to actually take the action. So when we talk about that as well, from a spiritual and faith aspect, pray about it, then do something about it.
Drift Farm is a reminder that creativity, culture, and community can all grow from the same soil when you lead with love and intention. Follow their journey at Drift Farm or at Milk+Sizz. Or you can visit driftfarm.com and experience it for yourself. Links will be in the description. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, sometimes the best path forward is to take the other route.